Welcome to our gripping story of the horror thriller. Prepare yourself for a chilling ride that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Let's dive into the terrifying world of Cecilia Cass. Our story opens in the dead of night at the luxurious yet isolated mansion of Adrian Griffin, a wealthy and brilliant but deeply controlling and abusive scientist. The house, perched on a cliff overlooking the ocean, is a fortress of cutting-edge technology. Inside, the atmosphere is thick with tension as Cecilia Cass, portrayed by the talented Elizabeth Moss, lies wide awake in bed. She spent years under Adrian's oppressive control, and tonight, she is about to make her daring escape. Cecilia moves with the precision of someone who has rehearsed this moment countless times. She carefully slips out of bed, her heart pounding in her chest. The darkness of the room matches the fear enveloping her. Adrian, deep in a drug-induced sleep thanks to the diazepam Cecilia slipped into his drink, lies motionless. Cecilia has meticulously planned every detail of her escape. She moves through the house, disabling the security cameras with trembling hands, knowing that any mistake could mean her doom. Her footsteps are silent as she navigates through the high-tech labyrinth of Adrian's home. Every creak of the floorboards echoes in her ears like a thunderclap. She heads to the basement, where she retrieves a pre-packed bag filled with essentials, passport, cash, and a few personal items. The basement is a cold, shadowy place, filled with strange, experimental equipment that only adds to the sinister atmosphere. Her breath is visible in the chilly air as she moves, her eyes darting around for any sign of danger. With her bag in hand, Cecilia makes her way to the back door, the final barrier between her and freedom. She pauses, listening for any sign that Adrian might have woken up. The house is eerily silent. She opens the door and steps into the night, the cold air biting at her skin. The forest surrounding the mansion is dense and foreboding, but it is her only escape route. She takes a deep breath and plunges into the darkness. The forest is alive with nocturnal sounds, the rustling of leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, the whispering of the wind. Cecilia's heart races as she navigates the uneven terrain, her every step echoing her fear. Branches scratch at her arms and face, but she presses on, driven by the desperate need to escape. Every shadow seems to conceal Adrian. Every sound is a potential threat. Her anxiety is palpable, her breath coming in short, sharp gasps. After what feels like an eternity, Cecilia reaches the road where her sister Emily is waiting in the car. Emily, played by Harriet Dyer, is anxious but ready to help. As Cecilia approaches, she glances back towards the mansion, half expecting to see Adrian pursuing her. Just as she reaches the car, Adrian appears, shouting and running towards them. Cecilia's heart skips a beat as she jumps into the car, screaming at Emily to drive. Emily slams her foot on the gas pedal, and they speed away, leaving Adrian behind, his face contorted with fury and desperation. Cecilia's escape is a harrowing experience that leaves her traumatized and paranoid. She takes refuge in the home of her childhood friend James, a kind-hearted police officer, and his spirited teenage daughter, Sydney. James, played by Aldous Hodge, welcomes Cecilia with open arms, offering her a safe haven. Despite their warm hospitality, Cecilia remains a prisoner of her trauma, unable to even step outside. Her paranoia is palpable. She constantly fears Adrian's reach. The audience feels her anxiety, sharing in her fear and uncertainty. James' house, though safe and inviting, becomes a prison for Cecilia. She spends her days confined within its walls, too terrified to venture outside. Her paranoia is heightened by the smallest noises. The creak of a floorboard, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant barking of a dog. Every sound is a reminder of Adrian's potential presence. The camera work in these scenes is masterful, creating a claustrophobic atmosphere that mirrors Cecilia's mental state. Then, news arrives that Adrian has committed suicide. Cecilia is initially skeptical, unable to believe that her tormentor is truly gone. Her relief is tempered by disbelief. She scrutinizes the news articles, looking for any sign that this might be a ruse. Gradually, she starts to believe she might finally be free. Her guarded optimism is a stark contrast to her earlier fear, and the audience feels a glimmer of hope for her. Adrian's death seems confirmed when his brother, Tom, a slick lawyer, informs Cecilia that Adrian left her a fortune in his will. Tom, portrayed by Michael Dorman, is a cold and calculating figure, his demeanor unnerving. The condition of the inheritance? She must be mentally competent and not commit any crime. This windfall appears to be a new beginning, a chance for Cecilia to rebuild her life. The scenes between Tom and Cecilia are charged with tension, as Tom's insincere condolences and predatory smile hint at deeper manipulations. Cecilia's newfound peace is fleeting. Strange, inexplicable events start to unfold around her, stirring her anxieties anew. The atmosphere in James' house shifts from one of safety to one of lurking danger. The audience is kept on edge, wondering if these occurrences are real or manifestations of Cecilia's trauma. The film's use of sound and visual cues heightens the tension, with creaking floors, sudden gusts of wind, and shifting shadows playing tricks on the mind. Cecilia's world begins to unravel as these eerie occurrences escalate. Her belongings are mysteriously rearranged, the stove turns on by itself, and she feels an invisible presence watching her every move. One night, while she is alone in the house, the tension reaches a peak. As she stands in the kitchen, the camera pans to an empty corner of the room. The silence is deafening, and the audience is left holding their breath. Suddenly, the stove ignites, flames licking the air with no apparent cause. Cecilia rushes to turn it off, her panic palpable. A particularly chilling moment comes when Cecilia is alone in James's house. She is in the bathroom taking a shower. The hot water creates a thick fog on the glass door. Suddenly, a handprint appears on the foggy surface. Cecilia's heart stops, and she stares in horror, her mind racing. She opens the shower door, finding no one there, but the handprint remains, a sinister reminder that she is not alone. The audience feels her terror, the hair-raising scene leaving a lasting impression. Her friends and family grow concerned for her mental health. James and Sydney try to reassure her, but their words ring hollow. Cecilia's fear and paranoia are infectious, seeping into the audience's mind. She is convinced that Adrian has found a way to make himself invisible and is tormenting her. Her certainty is met with skepticism, creating a rift between her and those who care about her. The scenes where she tries to convince them are heart-wrenching, as her desperation is palpable, but so is their doubt. The tension ramps up as the invisible assailant grows more violent. During a job interview, Cecilia's portfolio is sabotaged, causing a humiliating scene. As she sits in front of her potential employer, discussing her qualifications, the portfolio suddenly bursts open, its contents flying across the room. Papers scatter, and Cecilia is left speechless, her face flushed with embarrassment. The interviewer looks on in shock, and Cecilia's chance at a fresh start crumble before her eyes. The scene is a perfect blend of horror and tragedy, leaving the audience sympathizing with her plight. At a dinner with her sister Emily, a sense of unease hangs in the air. The restaurant is dimly lit, and the sisters sit at a small table, trying to reconnect. Cecilia is on edge, her eyes constantly scanning their surroundings. Just as she begins to relax, the unimaginable happens. An invisible hand lifts a knife and slits Emily's throat right in front of Cecilia. The moment is shockingly brutal, the blood splattering across the table. Emily's eyes widen in shock and pain before she collapses. The knife lands in Cecilia's hand, making it look like she committed the murder. The horror on Cecilia's face is mirrored by the audience. As this gruesome and unexpected event leaves everyone stunned, Cecilia is arrested and taken to a psychiatric hospital. Her pleas of innocence and claims of an invisible assailant fall on deaf ears. The doctors and police believe she is suffering from a severe mental breakdown. The stark, sterile environment of the hospital contrasts sharply with the chaos of Cecilia's mind. She is confined to a small, white room, her every move monitored. The scenes in the hospital are suffused with a sense of hopelessness, as Cecilia's despair deepens. In the psychiatric hospital, Cecilia receives a visit from Tom, who insists that Adrian is indeed dead. However, Cecilia's suspicions are confirmed when she finds evidence of Adrian's invisibility suit. During a tense confrontation with Tom, Cecilia's instincts take over. She uses a stolen pen to fake a suicide attempt, forcing the invisible man to reveal himself. The scene is intense and heart-pounding, as Cecilia's desperation drives her to take drastic measures. The invisible man appears, and a brutal struggle ensues. The confined space of the hospital room makes the fight even more claustrophobic and intense. Cecilia manages to escape, determined to stop Adrian once and for all. Cecilia runs through the dark streets, her breath coming out in sharp bursts as she makes her way to James's house. It's late at night, and the streets are eerily quiet. She can still feel the weight of Adrian's presence, even though she knows he's not physically there. The fear and adrenaline keep her going. When she finally arrives at James's house, she bursts through the door, startling James and his daughter, Sydney. James, a strong and kind-hearted police officer, quickly senses the urgency in Cecilia's voice. She frantically explains everything: how Adrian is still alive, how he's using a suit to make himself invisible, and how he's been tormenting her. James, initially skeptical, sees the genuine terror in Cecilia's eyes and agrees to help her. Together, they hatch a plan. They turn off all the lights in the house, plunging it into darkness. They spread flour across the floors, hoping to catch any footprints Adrian might leave. The house becomes a silent battleground, every creak and groan magnified in the tense silence. Cecilia takes her position in the living room, her heart pounding as she waits for Adrian to make his move. The minutes stretch into what feels like hours. Cecilia's breath is shaky, and her palms are sweaty. Suddenly, a floorboard creaks behind her. She spins around, but there's nothing there. The tension is unbearable. Just as she's about to give up, the alarms go off. Lights flash, and the house erupts into chaos. But there's still no sign of Adrian. Then, in a moment of clarity, Cecilia remembers the suit. She races to the basement where they've hidden it. The room is dark, but she can hear a faint buzzing sound, the telltale sign of the suit's malfunction. She grabs a fire extinguisher and sprays it wildly around the room. The foam reveals a figure covered in white, and Cecilia's heart skips a beat. It's Adrian. Adrian lunges at her, and they engage in a fierce struggle. Cecilia fights back with everything she has, grabbing whatever she can to defend herself. They crash into walls, knocking over furniture in their desperate battle. Just when it seems Adrian has the upper hand, James appears, tackling Adrian to the ground. They manage to rip the suit off him, exposing his furious face. Cecilia can't believe it. After all this time, she's finally face to face with her tormentor. But it's not over yet. Adrian is arrested, but Cecilia knows he'll find a way to escape. She needs to ensure he's stopped for good. She decides to visit Adrian at his house, pretending to reconcile with him. When she arrives, Adrian is smug and arrogant, thinking he's won. But Cecilia has a plan. She secretly records their conversation, hoping to get a confession. Adrian continues to gaslight her, calling her crazy and insisting no one will believe her. But Cecilia remains calm and collected. She knows she has the upper hand now. In a dramatic twist, Cecilia excuses herself to the bathroom. There, she dons the invisibility suit she took from Adrian. She sneaks back into the living room, and before Adrian knows what's happening, she slits his throat with a knife. Blood pours from his neck, and he collapses to the floor. Cecilia quickly removes the suit and calls the police, making it look like Adrian committed suicide. When the police arrive, Cecilia is calm and composed. She shows them the recording of Adrian's confession, ensuring they understand what kind of monster he was. The officers are shocked but realize the truth. Adrian's reign of terror is finally over. Cecilia walks out of the house, finally free from Adrian's control. She takes a deep breath, feeling the weight of his abuse lift from her shoulders. She knows it's not going to be easy, but she's ready to start a new life, free from fear. Back at James's house, Cecilia is greeted with open arms. James and Sydney are relieved to see her safe. They sit down together, and Cecilia starts to feel a sense of normalcy returning. She's grateful for their support and knows that, with their help, she can move on from this nightmare. Cecilia's journey from victim to survivor is inspiring. She fought against an invisible enemy, both literally and metaphorically. She proved to herself and everyone else that she is stronger than she ever imagined. As she starts to rebuild her life, she knows that she'll never forget what she went through, but she's determined to use her experience to become even stronger. This movie is more than just a horror story. It's a tale of empowerment and resilience. Cecilia's story reminds us that, no matter how dark things may seem, there is always a way to fight back and reclaim our lives. James's house is in chaos after the fight with Adrian. Broken furniture, scattered flour, and the remnants of the struggle lie everywhere. Cecilia, James, and Sydney work together to clean up, but the atmosphere is tense. They know Adrian is still a threat. Cecilia can't shake the feeling that Adrian will come after her again. She decides to visit Adrian in jail, hoping to confront him and get closure. When she arrives, Adrian is as smug as ever. He taunts her, saying she'll never be free from him. But Cecilia stands her ground. She knows his words are just another attempt to control her. She leaves the jail, more determined than ever to end this nightmare. Meanwhile, Adrian's brother, Tom, tries to take control of Adrian's estate. He contacts Cecilia, offering her a deal. If she drops all charges against Adrian, he'll give her a large sum of money. Cecilia is tempted but knows she can't let Adrian get away with his crimes. She refuses, and Tom's demeanor changes. He warns her that she'll regret her decision. Cecilia feels more isolated than ever. Even with James and Sydney's support, the weight of Adrian's influence looms over her. She decides to take matters into her own hands. She visits Tom's office, hoping to find something that can help her. She sneaks into his office late at night, rummaging through his files. She finds documents that prove Adrian's experiments with the invisibility suit. Armed with this evidence, Cecilia goes to the police. She presents the documents, hoping they'll believe her. The officers are skeptical, but the evidence is compelling. They decide to reopen the investigation into Adrian's activities. Cecilia feels a glimmer of hope. The police raid Adrian's house, searching for more evidence. They find hidden rooms and advanced technology, proving Cecilia's claims. Adrian is furious, but there's nothing he can do. He's arrested again, this time with no chance of escape. Cecilia feels a sense of relief. The nightmare seems to be over, but she knows she can't let her guard down. She continues to stay with James and Sydney, trying to rebuild her life. She starts therapy, working through her trauma. It's a slow process, but she's making progress. One day, Cecilia decides to visit her old house, the place where it all began. It's a difficult decision, but she knows she needs to face her fears. She walks through the empty rooms, memories flooding back. She feels a mixture of sadness and strength. This was where Adrian tried to control her, but it's also where she found the courage to escape. Cecilia decides to sell the house. She wants to leave the past behind and start fresh. She finds a buyer quickly, and the house is sold. She uses the money to start a new life. She finds a new place to live, a small, cozy apartment that feels safe. She starts a new job, something far removed from her old life. Cecilia's new life isn't easy. She still has nightmares and moments of panic, but she's learning to cope. She's found a new support system, friends who understand what she's been through. She starts to feel hope for the future. Cecilia's journey is one of resilience and strength. She's faced unimaginable terror and come out the other side stronger. Her story is a testament to the power of courage and determination. She's no longer a victim. She's a survivor. As Cecilia looks to the future, she knows there will be challenges, but she's ready to face them. She's determined to build a life filled with happiness and peace. She's learned that no matter how dark things may seem, there's always a way to fight back and reclaim your life. Thank you for joining us on this journey through entire story. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more exciting stories. Turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this.